I came up with another idea for a minute here at the sign project. This is sign project number 2. We're gonna get our materials prepped for making the sign. What if you just made like a caution sign or a stop sign, something that you want, or a radioactivity sign, just some kind of cool sign, or like a boys or a girls sign, or both, whatever. Like I said, or just simply your name or a single word or a phrase. We gotta find what means something to you. And that's the sign we're gonna make. Like I said, you might have a piece of poster board. Maybe you wanna do a gray background, maybe a white background. Maybe you found a little piece of cardboard. Okay, you can do something like that. Maybe you're just doing it on a piece of paper. I feel like we can find something to do this on. This sign up here, this is just a sign that has my name and my wife's name. I think it's in reverse because I'm doing my screen backwards for you. But that's just written on an old piece of wood, you see? So we're gonna start brainstorming and trying to figure out what we're gonna do this sign on. And when you get that piece, we have to prep it for sign work. Mine is this big piece of plywood. Okay, so I'm gonna put you guys down here. And I did prep it already, but in case you are going to prep yours, have yourself plenty of room, especially if it's larger. I'm gonna just show you how I did it. Dusty around here. So I had this piece of plywood, right? The grain goes this way. And this is also a paint lesson. If you're painting anything in the future from now, 10 years from now, tomorrow. With wood, we wanna go with the grain, okay? Doing a spray paint, even if you're spraying your house, that works, but you still always wanna back brush it if you want that nice look. So I would spray, let's say had a spray gun, a paint gun, I would spray this and I'd back brush it with my brush, okay? And respect the brush. If you guys end up with a nice set of brushes, you gotta respect these things. They're expensive and they last a long time if you take care of them. So this one I didn't spray first, I just simply painted it white. I have a bunch of old paints that I keep around in case I ever need them. And I mark them. This is also a good idea to do just for life. This is just a life lesson with your old paints. If you're painting your room, your house, your doors, something, keep the color, and I like to write on the top of it, okay? So for instance, this is interior doors, this is interior trim, this is my fascia, that's the board that runs up along the side of the house that the gutters fit on, and that protects the inside wood of your house. So I'm not gonna use those paints, but then I have this old one that says random. I found this one. I kept it around for a little while. And so I use this paint kind of as a primer background paint. I have actually primer paint. That's this stuff down here. This is my Kills 3. Can you see that all right? So I always keep some primer around, but primer can be expensive, and I had this old paint that I'm never gonna use, and it's white, so I'll use that. Primer. Might as well talk about primer a little bit. And I'll ask you a question, there'll be a quiz at some point. Probably not. But anyway, seriously important, priming something before you paint or draw. It helps the colors that you wanna use stand out, okay? I have a big thing of that Kills primer. I'll use that when I'm covering up an old stain that I cleaned, and then you wanna cover up that. An entire board like this, I would prime first, and that would make it so these things will get covered up. The wood will all be one solid color, so then I can paint on my canvas. Generally, a primer, you have to think of it like a serious primer that you would buy a gallon of or a quart of, is paint and glue. It's kind of an adhesive paint, a really strong paint that really grips onto a material so that your delicate fancy paints can then stick to that primer. Whereas a delicate fancy tape might not stick to, say, a metal or an unfinished piece of wood as well, and it would also bleed in. But if you prime something first, it's like you put a thinnest little layer of material that will grip on to what you're painting, and then it'll give you a nice surface to paint on top of that. You see what I'm saying? So, like I said, you'll see these in the hardware store. It's good to have a can of primer around, probably more so when you're older and you have a home and you're taking care of it. But this is my primer. It blocks stains, it stops mold. It's another layer of water repellent. Heavy duty, high hide sealer and stain blocker. It says paint within 1 hour, which means after I put this primer down, then I can paint over it. Let's say you don't have any primer, but you want to work on a piece of wood. That's fine. You'll just have to say if you want the wood background, kind of like the sign up here, I don't want it primed, I just want the image on a wooden background, which also looks really cool. You might just have to do a couple coats, okay? But if you want this to be a full canvas to paint on, it'd be best to prime it. If you don't have any primer, no big deal. You can use just some old white paint if you have that. And if you don't have any of this stuff, that's fine. You have a pencil and paper, we can draw and start to figure out how we're gonna get this stuff and work on it in the future. This is just a lesson on how to do stuff. But it is a sign project. Don't get me wrong, we still have to come up with a sign, whether it's a big one on a piece of wood, a medium one on a piece of poster board, a smaller one on a piece of cardboard, a smaller one on a piece of paper, or I don't know, we'll figure it out, we'll talk. But right now I'm prepping my board, long paint strokes with the grain, okay? There it is. So let's put this down here. Can you see? Can you see the strokes? I love this thing. I painted a couple at my house, 2 houses of mine. I love painting. It's like the one thing, if I wasn't, you can tell, look, that's probably one of my paint jobs. It's a really good trade to get into. Always stuff needs to be painted. So check this out too, it has a cool magnet. Anyway, pour my paint in here, dip it, squeegee it, long paint strokes. See that? Look at this. What happened? Where's the paint? Where's the paint? Oh, there it is. Boom. Magic. Just painted it. How'd that happen, OB? You're good at priming. Thanks, I practiced. Sweet, just like that, it's done. So like I said, I had painted this prior. I'm gonna have you sit there while I paint my board. This has been painted prior. Now, how am I gonna hang this sign? I was thinking maybe I could stake it, put some stakes on the back, screw them in, and then like put it in the ground like this. There's also an area with fencing. So what I ended up doing was drilling a couple holes in the top. And I think I'll hang it with some zip ties up against the fence. I need some holes in this side too. I only put them in one. Well, actually I had them on both sides, but I decided that it was a little too long. So I cut it down a little shorter. I need to drill a couple holes in plywood. Do y'all remember how to do it from the drill tutorial? Well, I'll grab a little drill. What speed am I gonna do? Fast or slow? In wood. Probably a little faster, right? I'm gonna open that up. I'm gonna put that down. I'm gonna grab a bit, medium size. That should do. Maybe this one. Crank it down. Maybe get my awl. Did I talk about it all last time? Yeah, sure I did. This is my little pointy no head screwdriver. It's not a screwdriver, it's just an awl. And it's for making a little pilot hole, a little starter hole for wherever you want to drill, okay? Measure out my spot. I'm gonna go, you see me over here? I'm gonna look at the other one I did. It's about 2 fingers, about 1 inch apart. Probably go right about here. Little awl. Show you what's happening. I'm gonna get the other one right about here. Great. All right. And then next one. See that? And because I have that starter hole right in. Fantastic. Got a couple holes in my sign to hang it. And I'm just prepping all this stuff first because I'm still imagining how it's gonna come out, how I'm gonna do this. So this is gonna be my sign. There it is. Primed, prepped. A couple holes in the side so I can zip tie it to a fence. And let me show you. I don't know what a zip tie is. There we go. I got a couple in here. Whoopsie. There's a couple little zip ties. And I'm sure you've seen these. Like, oh yeah, those things. That's these guys. Remember these? They kind of go like this. And yeah, once you zip them, then they don't come out the other way. You can. Here's a little secret. There's a little tiny piece, little thing right in there. If you get something small enough, you can lift this up and watch this. Oh, I bet you didn't know that. You can undo a zip tie. They don't last forever if you can get that little latch up. Boom, zip tie. So this was my idea. My thought was, with my sign, get some of this old wood out of the way. I was going to put this through here, and then this through here, and then, see, I can zip tie it, and that'll be on the top. I might end up doing 2 more down here. Might not need it. Okay. So that's a zip tie. They make zip ties for everything. They're really, really good to have. Another tool or material you might want in the future. Check these ones out. This is a giant zip tie with the side of this one. They use that for like HVAC and heating and cooling systems for ducting and stuff. Ooh, it has a name, I don't remember. I just call it big old zip tie. Big old zip tie. All right, so here is my board prepped. While I was talking and showing you my prep work, I hope you were looking around and finding what you're gonna do your sign on and thinking about what your sign's going to be, okay? So that was sign video number 2, prepping, getting ready, visualizing what our sign is going to be, what it's gonna be about, how it's gonna work. While we were setting up our sign, our board, like I said, hopefully you were figuring that out, as was I. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna come up with what our sign's gonna look like. We're not gonna YOLO it straight onto our final piece. I would like to do some sketches, and we'll do some sketches together in class. And if you haven't got your board or your piece of cardboard or your piece of oak tag or poster board together, you can still start to think about what your sign's gonna be about and what it's gonna look like. And we'll sketch that on paper and pen in our 3rd video, which we'll do in a moment. But for now, clean up your workspace, get ready to do our first couple sketches of our idea, our sign. Maybe our sign's simply a heart. I mean, it can be an image even. Your sign can be an image, something that people will look at and can read. And you don't always have to read words, you can read images, okay? What's your sign gonna be? And we'll discuss different ideas during class, and we'll work on our sketch. Later.